So do you mind if I actually just jump straight into the questions? And what are you guys seeing right now on the ground?
I guess one of the main things that we're seeing at the moment across our portfolio, which stretches across Adelaide, we have about 1,200 properties, and half of our portfolio would be over 600 a week and the other half under 600. And I guess what we're seeing is the properties that are over the 600, we've had more than ever before in the last 12 months to 18 months, massive price increases. And we are seeing that they are greater in the portfolio that is under the 600 compared to those that are over. And that would point towards the fact that there is more demand in those lower value rentals.
So you've got a lot more pressure on those kind of entry level properties versus like your beachfront stock and stuff like that.
100%.
Okay. All right. And what do you reckon that is? What's the driver behind it that you guys are thinking?
Affordability, for sure. So, when we're doing our open homes, for example, those that are under the 600 or even specifically, closer to the 500, there is a lot more demand for those. Whereas, properties that are sitting at the 7, 8 or over 1,000, we're doing opens by appointment. So,
okay. And what's a lot more demand? Are we talking like 10 people at an open versus 2 people at an open, or is it like
even higher?
Yeah, wow. Okay. So there's like significantly more.
Correct.
Right.
And quality of applicant is also still there in the lower range, but obviously they need to be really well vetted to make sure affordability is actually there so that there's not pain during the tenancy.
So, and you and I were chatting about something off air before as well, that you're seeing a lot more demand around the unit side of things now as well.
Absolutely.
What's happening there?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. So traditionally, particularly in the southern suburbs of Adelaide, in the past, units aren't a huge factor, and the demand for units was low, I guess, and trying to find great quality of tenants had been harder. Whereas now, as people are assessing their affordability, they're realising that that is what's in their range, and demand for units has really increased, and there are really amazing applicants out there in the tenant space.
So is it kind of like trickling down, like people that were maybe at a point where they were renting a house, times were good, they were pretty happy with it, and now they're looking at it going, oh, actually the rent for the house has gone up, so I don't want to pay that much, so now I'm going down to a unit, and just increasing that demand that way.
Correct. And that's happening also in the housing space. So it's actually quite sad, but we're seeing families, for example, that were once in 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes, but their affordability is no longer there now that rents have increased so significantly and wages have not caught up. And so they are making decisions as families to forego the 4th bedroom or to, reduce their quality of living.
What are you seeing on the rent arrears side of things then? Because the picture you're painting sounds like there's some potential consequences to it as well. As much as the property investor side of me is like, yeah, demand, this is great. It's like there's another real side to this picture.
Absolutely. And interestingly, as an office in amongst our team, we were expecting that we would have seen rent arrears by now start to increase, which we haven't. But we do believe that quite possibly, because the demand is so high and people who have a property know that, they need to hang on, we feel like people are prioritising their rents far more than has ever needed to happen in the past.
Right.
Over other bills, for example.
So you're not seeing them?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So, but that was something that you guys were expecting, but you reckon it's because like maybe the phone bill is getting left, or there's other things that might not be, obviously this is anecdotal, I understand we can't see people's phone bill data, but
sure.
But the rents are front and centre.
Absolutely. And, obviously across Adelaide or across Australia, we know that there are cost of living pressures everywhere. So yeah, it's surprising that we haven't seen it as yet.
Okay. All right. So recapping, we've got an affordability side of things making anything under $600 a week in Adelaide a significantly higher demand than over the 600 mark. So still sounds like over 600 is okay, but under 600, different story. That's a lot more. Units have got a lot more demand around them. You're not seeing rent arrears now, but I'm assuming that's something that people maybe need to watch out for. Is there any tips around that one at all?
Look, obviously one of the key things is to ensure thorough vetting of tenancy applications to make sure that your tenant has the affordability so that, they can continue on throughout the journey of their tenancy. That's really critical.
So don't just pick the highest rent. Make sure that the affordability level's there.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else before we move on to top pick and bottom pick? Is there anything else that you wanted to chat to on this one? But there's a bit of a boots on the ground update.
I guess one of the things is that we're seeing a little bit more rent vesting going on where, you can get a higher end property. Like I was saying earlier, rents have not increased at the rate for the higher end properties that they have at lower. So there are plenty of tenants that are our landlords that have chosen to go and live closer to the city and rent their property and
I suppose take advantage of exactly this discrepancy you're talking about. There's not as much competition up above 6, but there's a lot more below 6. So if you own a property that's below 6, maybe it's time to consider renting something. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So getting more the $1 million lifestyle without the $1 million mortgage.
Yeah, correct.
Cool. All right. Well, as far as our top pick on the list then, actually, do you want to start with top or do you want to start with bottom? Where do you want to go?
Whichever way you want to roll.
All right. Well, let's start on the top first. What's your top pick then for South Australia?
I guess I might be a little bit biased, but our office is based south, but recently with the upgrade of the South Road extension, we are seeing super high demand for the suburb Aldinga Beach.
Dingy, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot.
Yields are pretty good. So they're sitting at low 4s. Yeah, rent increases have been really strong and demand is absolutely fantastic.
When you say really strong, what are the increases looking like percentage-wise?
So we were only just chatting about this in our office and in the last 12 months, they've been over $100 a week.
$100 a week increase, yeah, okay.
Correct.
All right, so you got some strong increases there. And you're also liking the suburb from, you're saying something about the Southern Expressway. So you're finding that it's the commute times that are attracting people?
Yeah, well, I guess people are really enjoying seaside living and now that the road's finished, it's about 35 minutes. Don't count me on getting that 100% correct, but it's not much of a commute to the city at all anymore. It's pretty convenient.
I think this is really important as well for anyone, again, that's maybe listening to this from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. If you don't know it, you look on a map, Dingy looks like it's forever away. But when you get on an expressway, it's not that far away time-wise.
No, correct.
So, and as far as the beaches and everything else are concerned, there's a lot that's attracting people there. I still remember that Aldinga was just like that little, I don't want to say one horse town, that sounds mean, but it was a holiday beachside destination. But now it's very much like an outer suburb of Adelaide.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we go to the opposite end of the scale then, what's your bottom pick on the list, Beck?
Well, it's not a bottom. It's just of a lot of interest to me. And what I have noticed is Salisbury Plains over the last 3 months, we've seen a decrease in the average rents asked of just over 5%.
Okay.
And anecdotally, I am wondering if that points to
like the affordability piece you're talking about?
Correct. Whereas, that basically the rent increases possibly have maxed there. People can't rent things that they can't afford. So I just wonder if it will be really interesting to keep an eye on it to see whether or not rents peter out there or if they continue to go backwards, if they've gone past the level of affordability for the people in Salisbury Plains, for example.
Yeah, because then it doesn't really matter how much you're asking or how much like people could offer. It's like unless they can afford to keep paying it, like that's the real metric there.
Absolutely. And there is no point, in putting a tenant in a property that cannot afford the rent.
Do you think also, Beck, that there's potentially a little bit more stock outside the Salisbury Plains kind of area rather than the Aldinga Beach? Because from what, and I don't have the data in front of me, but from what I understand, Dingy's a little bit more owner-occupied, whereas Salisbury Plains, if it is a little bit more rented, then there's going to be that kind of supply-demand issue potentially weighted a bit more in the tenant's favour?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the strongest point is that if you're a property manager and you're looking at applications and none of your best applicants have got the affordability, it points to the fact that you really do need to drop the rent to secure the best tenant. Because what we know is, a great tenant will save a landlord money in damages in all sorts of things. So exactly what you said, supply and demand. And so the prices are needing to drop to meet the market.
All right, Beck. And for anyone that's wanting the full report as well, click the link in the show notes below and you can download the entire high demand hot list, which is powered by Trove Property Management. But otherwise, Beck Day, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.
No worries. Thanks for having me.